Yo, as there are a lot of people struggling with the settings, like having low FPS, high input delay and bad aim or mechanics, I have decided to make a complete video so you can fix these mistakes in no time. I will go through every single setting as I see a lot of people making crucial mistakes when it comes to adjusting on them. By using the best resolution, the best sensitivity and the best binds, you will boost your mechanics drastically and ensure to reach your maximum potential. By the way, feel free to use the timestamps down below to choose what you want to know. Let's get started. First of all, we will start with the binds, and this is actually a bit more complicated than you might think. But if you can manage to get the optimum binds, you will have perfect movement, faster mechanics, and that's worth the effort changing them or at least optimizing them. I will just start with the priority and then giving every following action a proper bind for its necessity. First of all, obviously WASD for your movement keys, and then the other important thing here is to put sprint on B, so you do it with your thumb. I think it's not good if you do it with your movement finger, so your index or your ring finger, because you can't move then while sprinting, or at least while pressing sprint once. Then crouch, of course, on control. And then I will switch down to building first, because I think this is the second most important after moving. So we want to make sure that we can build everything whilst moving into every direction. So we can't put anything on our ring, on our middle or on our index finger. The only spots that remain are the pinky and the thumb. And probably every one of you has a mouse with 2 thumb buttons. So we will use 2 thumb buttons instantly for building on the mouse. And preferably the floor and the stair, as you can walk on them. The wall and the cone is not that important. And then I would recommend to put the wall on shift, as you can easily press them with your left pinky whilst fully rotating, and the cone on V or C. You can decide what you prefer, just try it out. So we are finished there. Then the next important bind is your edit bind, and there I would recommend to put it on E or F. And then you might ask, okay, so Spinax, didn't you just say that we should not use our main fingers for movement for any other important tasks? And yeah, the problem with editing is that you need to do it very often, and it just comes naturally that your index finger is the most technical and fastest finger if you see it from that perspective. So you need to renunciate on moving completely and just take the sacrifice and put editing on E or F. And yeah, there it's just preference if you like E or F more. The next bind are our weapons, because they are at least as important as the building binds. They are starting at the harvesting tool, so our pickaxe, and I have it on F because I have edit on E. If you have edit on F, then I would put the pickaxe on E. This is easily available. Don't need to rotate into every direction. It's not that hard if you can't rotate to your right. And then the pump slot, so the weapon slot 2, I put on C or on V. It depends on where you place the cone. But this is also good because you again can use your thumb and you have full movement when you're jumping into a box, so you can instantly swap to your pump. Then the next slot is your AR or SMG. So again, when you are in the box, you need this to not scuff your movement, as you want to have good movement when you're in the box. But nearly every time you jump into a box, you need to swap to your SMG or to your AR. So what do you do when you jump into a box? You move right, because then the enemy doesn't have such a good angle on you because you are behind his character, and you are crouching right anyways, so you can use your ring finger, your left one, for pressing Q to go to the SMG or AR. Smart, right? And then the other ones, you can fill them up, just something which is kind of comfortable. I got them on 2, which I also press with my left ring finger, then 3 with my index, and 4 also with my index. But these doesn't really matter, as you mostly don't have to use them in such stressy situations. And I think that's most of the important stuff we can check. Reload, yeah, put reload on T, no stress there. So for use, you will use your mouse wheel. And why do you use your mouse wheel for grabbing something up? Because first of all, it's a free slot on your mouse and keyboard. And then second of all, you can scroll your mouse way faster than pressing a button with any finger. So imagine the situation when you're landing on a chest and you're going for the 50-50, then you can easily just scroll. And in addition, you can bind like 5 or some unimportant bind, so you can press that as well. And then in combination with auto pickup, you 100% have the weapon, or he is macroing, but that's quite unlucky then. Repair G is really good. Rotate buildings, yeah, this you can tricks with that a bit. So I used to use the one button above shift, or you use Z. It's not out of the world for your index finger. So the last thing for our binds is mouse wheel reset. And if you still haven't enabled mouse wheel reset by now, you're probably the biggest drone. I will help you. So first of all, you need to remember in which direction you scroll your wheel when binding it for the use. But for this time, you scroll your wheel into the other direction, then go down to reset building edit and do it into the same direction. Building edit, scroll wheel up, reset building edit, scroll wheel up as well. Put your map on M, put your inventory on tab, and you're good to go. Okay, so now we come to the video settings, as they will give you maximum FPS and low input delay. So the first setting you want to choose is full screen when it comes to your window mode. Full screen will give you the most FPS and the less input delay, and is just, as you can see on the right there, slightly faster than the other ones. When it comes to your resolution, you can choose between the normal native resolution, which is 1920 by 1080, or you choose to go lower, like 600 times 900. This will boost your FPS drastically and only slightly decrease your quality. You can see the differences between those both now. There are a lot of pros which use those settings just to get more FPS. Another option you have to get even more FPS is to play a stretched resolution. But the normal problem with stretched res is that you have a lot of input delay, as you can only play it in windowed full screen. Though I found a very good strategy how to get stretched without zero input delay and even more FPS. Smash the like button to 120 and let me know in the comments if I should make a full guide on it. VSync obviously turn this off. This matches your FPS with your refresh rate, but you can't put your FPS higher than, so this doesn't really make sense. When it comes to your FPS, you always want to put this 1 or 2 steps higher than your actual refresh rate of your monitor is. For example, if you have 160 Hz, you put this to 165 FPS or 180 FPS. This makes sense, as having low consistent FPS is always better than having high FPS but then struggling to get them consistent. So for your rendering mode, you normally want to play performance mode, but for now we will put in DX11. As you can see, there are so many more quality options and advanced settings which are just not there on performance mode. I don't know why, don't ask me, but all of them have an influence even if you're playing on performance mode. We will skip the graphics for now. I will come to that later. Then also skip the auto set quality and put the quality preset on low. So actually now there is no custom anymore, but so let it on low. Then put the anti-aliasing off, and you can change this as well. Put the 3D resolution to max. You can put this lower if you want even more FPS, but this kind of influences how your enemies look, and so your aim won't be that good. So I would not recommend to put this lower than 100%. Sure, you can put it lower if you really need it for your FPS, but at least do not put it on 1%, as it really looks like this. And that's not good. Then all of those settings there, I have on off or low, also put them on low. They will just give you less FPS if you put them higher, and they won't really influence your game. Even few distance, like some people think that they can see enemies for a further distance, but that's just a cap, and you can see them as good as if you put this on epic. This doesn't really matter. And for the advanced graphics, you want to show your FPS, so put this on. Use GPU crash debugging, turn this off. Like as you can see on the right there, enabling this feature comes at a small performance cost, so we obviously want to turn this off. Put latency markers off. You can turn this on if you want to check your latency in creative or something, but for normal this is just confusing. This second to last setting is good. Normally on plus boost is the best one for most PCs, but actually there are some who have better FPS if they turn it on off or on. Just try it out. Put it on plus boost, turn it off, turn it on, figure it out for your PC, and of course disable the last setting. If you have changed all of your settings to the one that I've just explained, then make sure to change to performance mode, restart your game, and you're good to go. If you do not like the low measures, also called mobile builds, you can easily change this to high measures by going into your settings, changing the setting from low to high, and then also changing the view distance from low to far or to epic. If you put them on epic, the builds look exactly like, for example, at Mr. Savage. I think Mr. Savage is one of the only pros as well who is using normal builds. All of the others use mobile builds, as they have even less input delay and no weird textures, so you're confused and you can track your enemy perfectly with mobile builds. When it comes to your colorblind mode, you can choose whatever you want. It's complete preference. There are no advantages or disadvantages in any of these. Just make sure that you have enough vision so that you see enough. For example, in the new underworld biome, which is pretty dark, so I would not recommend to put the brightness down. Just leave it on 100. I think that's the best for most PCs. Of course, you have to match it with your monitor settings a bit, but there are no disadvantages in playing around with them. For the in-game settings, I will go through them quickly as well. So toggle sprint on, open auto doors also on. This is good if you accidentally edit a door instead of a window, and then you can just open it and shoot with your pump at the enemy. Then mantle activation, put this to hold jump, auto activation, press jump. Then you can skip those, just turn them off. This is preference as well. Then actually turn on auto pick up weapons. This is good for 50-50ing chests, if you're 50-50ing a chest in a cup or on your spot. And preferred item slots, this is preferably as well, so choose it or don't choose it. I have it off, but I don't really like it because some weapons are not really weapons then, and then then they are on the 5th slot, and then everything gets fucked up if you're 50-50ing. But you will get used to it, so it's just preference. This one is also preference, but normally you have your heals on your last slots, so turning this on makes sense. For your building settings, you can choose to turn the first one on or off. I think for a controller it's good to have it on, so if you're swapping from your weapon inventory to your building inventory, that you are not on your cone if you want to be on your stair, but for mouse and keyboard it doesn't matter. Disable pre-edit option you should turn on, because if you're going for a pre-edit and then you forget, for example, that you have a pre-edit in and you're swapping to your pickaxe, going back to your wall, then the pre-edit won't be there anymore. Or if you just want to do a pre-edit and then normally build to cover, this is also good. You just need to switch to your pickaxe and to your building plan again. Turbo building, of course, turn this on. And edit on release is kind of tricky. I think this is preference as well. If you're used to playing it off, then stay or change if you want to get a bit faster. Like, there are some pros and cons. If you want, I can actually do a specific video on this, but this would take too long now to explain. Then tutorial, of course, turn this off. Yeah, and the last options here are for recording and replays. So for the HUD, most of all is like preference, but I would recommend to put the damage numbers a bit higher than normal so you can see them properly. And the other ones, yeah, you can just copy mine, they are pretty good. So last but not least, we came to the sensitivity, and actually sensitivity is probably as complicated as binds, so I won't explain it in this video, I'm sorry. But I have made a complete sense guide in which you can figure out your optimal sense to achieve your maximum performance. And if you feel like watching this, make sure to do it. I link it up there, or the first link in the description. Make sure to check this out. Enjoy your day if you're a pussy. Peace out, bro.